Is the Toyota LandCruiser 70 Series the right car for you? Well, if it is, I hope you've already got your order in because these things are rarer than hen's teeth. I'll tell you why in this review. G'day, I'm Matt and here it is, the all new, not all new at all, Toyota LandCruiser 70 Series. This one has seen some updates for 2023 and beyond, and this one is the LC79 single cab chassis, and it's the one you should be buying, not the 5-door wagon, not the Troopy, not the dual cab even, because this one has the safety stuff you should get as standard, but I'll tell you more about that later on in this review. Thanks for joining along for the ride with my new channel. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, and if you are, please do hit like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Thanks. It sounds crazy, but if you're one of those people who really loves to go to those fancy restaurants where they have huge plates but not very much food, then you're going to really love the LandCruiser 70 Series. That's because you're paying a lot of money for not very much, at least on paper. Look, this car is dated. It doesn't have a whole lot of advanced technology or mod cons or anything like that, but it has been updated with some important safety equipment as standard across the entire range. I'll tell you more of that in the safety section. Now, we're talking 75 grand or thereabouts for this spec. This one, as I said, is the GXL grade, so the top of the range, but there's no leather, there's no heated seats, no electric seats, no push button start, nothing that you would otherwise get if you were spending 75 grand on a ute from a different brand or even from Toyota. So it is feeling a little bit bare bones for the money that you're paying, but that might not matter to you if you know what this truck's all about, and that is severe capability, and we'll get to some of that later on. The other thing I should point out, you do get things like a 6-inch touchscreen media system, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto though. You get sat-nav, I guess that's something, and the safety tech that's been added is an improvement. We'll get to that later. It'd be easy to say that any of the other high-spec dual cab utes for about this money are going to be a better option for the majority of buyers. And it's easy to see why. I mean, you'll get more practicality, you'll get better safety, you'll get better livability, more comfort, better efficiency. I mean, the list is endless. They're usually cheaper as well. But the fact of the matter is that if you need this vehicle, then you need it. And there's no other alternative that can do what this thing can do. No other ute out there has a V8 engine and a 5-speed manual transmission and the same level of capability that this vehicle has. Well, unless you're buying a used 70 Series and they're fetching up to or in excess of 100 grand anyway. Yeesh. This is a big rig, a single cab ute at 5.2 meters or thereabouts in length. It's long, there's no doubt about that. It's got a massive tray on it. Now let's talk trays. This is a Toyota genuine tray that's been fitted to this test vehicle. Now it might not suit your needs, so just consider this for illustrative purposes only. What you need to know is that it's got an absolutely massive payload, which is even bigger for this 2023 update compared to the last versions because they've done a gross vehicle mass improvement. So across the board, it's now capable of doing more and carrying more weight, which is a good thing for buyers who want a vehicle like this that's made for hard work. You can also pick it from the outside as the updated version because it's got bigger indicators on the front panels as well. If you've ever driven behind a LandCruiser 70 Series and thought to yourself, I swear those rear wheels are closer together than the fronts, you are absolutely right. They are about 10 centimeters closer together in terms of the track width. And that does cause issues when it comes to off-roading. They basically have to forge their own path as well as the front tires forging their own path. So it can be a bit of a handful when it comes to off-road driving. The interior of the 70 Series is basic. That's all I'm going to say. No, actually, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So it's still very, very much what you've come to know and expect from this model line over the last few years at least. There are some things in here that are convenient. There's a couple of USB ports for charging down here. There's a USB connector on the screen, but as I mentioned before, no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. You do get sat-nav, which is something, I guess, but it is pretty old school in here. There's a CD player. Guess that's something. Now, the other things I should tell you about include, well, the controls. Well, there's Obviously a pretty hardcore air conditioning system, and it works very, very well. There's a button here for the aerial to be put up or put down, which is good. If you're going in the bush, you might need to drop it if there's lots of shrubs around that you don't want to hit. Then you won't damage your aerial. I guess that's pretty good. There's no electric mirrors, so you still have to actually reach out and adjust the mirrors to be where you want them to be, but at least they're replaceable. If you do happen to go bush bashing and end up smashing one of your mirrors off, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg like it might on some of those other newer mirrors that have other technology built into them, like blind spot monitoring, for instance. Now, let's talk about the seats. They have this material, I've heard it described before as mouse fur. I've never felt the fur of a mouse, but I imagine that's probably what it does feel like. It's quite unpleasant to sit on. I'm happy that I'm wearing long pants, for instance. Otherwise, it's very, very basic in here. Not a whole lot to talk about. You've got a small storage cubby here, a bottle holder there, some tiny, tiny cup holders in the doors, a little bit of storage behind the seats too. And obviously, if you do choose either the dual cab, the wagon, or the Troopy, then you will get different configurations in the back. Just depends what you need. But like I'm going to tell you a little bit more about later, the single cab's the one you should be buying. Grunt is what this engine is all about. It's a 4.5 litre V8 turbo diesel. No other ute on the market has one like it. And if that matters to you, then it's your only choice really. But you should know this, the power and torque outputs, which you'll see on your screen now, are actually lower than some utes, half the price, and with much, much smaller engines. For example, an LDV T60 has a 2 litre turbo diesel with, well, 160 kilowatts and 500 newton meters, more than this, but it doesn't have the same level of ease when it comes to getting that power. This is a really relaxed but very, very potent powertrain. It comes with a 5-speed manual as standard. There's no automatic option still in 2023. You can go to the aftermarket and get one fitted if you want. It probably costs you $20,000 or $30,000 on top of the purchase price, so you're going to have to really want it to be automatic. Now, it's 4-wheel drive, as you'd expect, with low range. There are diff locks available on different grades depending on which one you choose, and maximum brake towing capacity is 3.5 tons. So it'll get the job done that you need it to get done. This big V8 engine, I'm sure you can hear it, is very loud, and the 5-speed manual transmission, well, it could do with another gear if I'm honest. But the thing about it is that it still has this effortless pulling power from low in the rev range. And you know, you can sit in 4th gear at 50 k's an hour, put your foot down and be assured that it isn't going to cough and splutter. It's not going to struggle for grunt. It's just going to get on with it. It's a really rewarding engine in that regard. The steering is a little bit vague. Well, maybe not a little bit, it is vague. It doesn't necessarily do what you think it's going to do when you do steer. There's sometimes just a lot of play and nothing happens. Aloof is the word that I've seen used most when it comes to this steering. In urban situations, the steering's quite heavy and does require a fair bit of arm work because it's got a massive turning circle, this thing. And the ride comfort, well, there is some comfort to it, which is a good thing. I wouldn't say that it's cushy or cozy, but it does do the job that you'd expect a vehicle like this, with this intention, would do. If you do put weight in the back, and I have, it is really, really settled and comfortable. And, well, if you are the sort of person who's going to put toolboxes on the back, that will be a good thing for you. And the 70 series now also comes as standard with a snorkel. And the snorkel really does offer up quite a lot of noise on the freeway. We're just going onto the freeway here in Western Sydney, and I hope you can still hear me because everything gets so much louder. If you're the sort of person who's going to be doing freeway commuting in your LandCruiser 70 series, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get some earmuffs or noise cancelling headphones as well. Maybe that's why they haven't bothered upgrading the stereo, because you couldn't hear it anyway. You might be wondering, okay, so where's the load test? Where's the off-road test? Where's the towing test as part of this review? And there isn't going to be any of those things because I've done all of them, and I can tell you, if that's what you're buying this car for, then it's going to be right for you because it does all of those things really easily and really well. If towing is important to you, it'll do what you need. If off-roading is why you're buying a vehicle like this, it's going to go pretty much anywhere that you think it can't go. And also, if you're planning on putting 1,000 kilos in the tray every single day, well, I don't think there's any other ute on the market that could do it as easily as this. So, in some ways it's fantastic, but in a lot of other ways, it's really not. The official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the entire 70 series range is 10.7 litres per 100 kilometres. Now, that's what it should be able to achieve across a mix of on-road driving, not loaded up, not towing, nothing like that. That's just a regular on-road driving mix, according to Toyota anyway. And in reality, you might be able to achieve that if you do a lot of open road driving in the country, 50, 80k an hour driving, then you should be able to do it. But at high speeds, asking much more of the engine, you might use a fair bit more. My real world fuel consumption figure is on your screen now, and that was across a mix of everyday driving, the sort of stuff I do every day anyway. A vehicle like this doesn't look like it has any right to offer the advanced safety tech that it does, but kudos to Toyota for adding some potentially life-saving stuff here. It's got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, and it'll work up to maximum speed for the LandCruiser 70 series, so it's high-tech safety gear. What it doesn't get is any of those other lane keeping or blind spot monitoring or rear cross traffic alert aids that some of the other vehicles out there get. No reverse camera still either, at least it's easy to see out of. Now, the thing you also need to know is that the single cab version is the only one that gets those curtain airbags. All the other versions only have dual front airbag coverage, and that could be a real issue for you if you find yourself in an unfortunate accident. Now, 5-star NCAP safety rating still exists for this vehicle until the end of 2023 when it expires, but it's only for this vehicle, the single cab chassis. All the other versions don't get a 5-star rating. So if that matters to you, you got to choose this one. I told you this was the one to pick. Toyota LandCruisers have a pretty much bulletproof reputation for reliability. They are known for their longevity and they handle punishment. So if this part of the video doesn't matter to you, you can skip ahead. But I will tell you this, there is a warranty for 5 years or unlimited kilometers for this vehicle. It extends out to 7 years for the powertrain if you make sure that you service it on time. Servicing is every 6 months or 10,000 kilometers, which is more regular than a lot of the other vehicles out there, but could be the reason that it's got such a good reputation for reliability. Services aren't cheap either, at $425 for the first 6 services or 60,000 kilometers. So it's not overly cheap to run. Oh, and you don't get roadside assistance included as standard. You have to pay extra for that too. There are so many reasons that the LandCruiser 70 series is not going to be the right car for you, depending on what you need it to do. The fact is that there are better, safer, more advanced, more comfortable, more livable utes out there. But if you happen to live on a farm or down a mine, then there's plenty of reasons why you would choose this. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose a 70 series? Or have you wished for one but never been able to actually afford it or order one? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you are after any particular ute reviews, let me know what you need. I'll try and get to it. Thanks for watching.